Okay, let's talk about the if formula. It's that super useful formula, and there's various things you can do to extend it, and that's what we're going to look at in this lesson. So let's start with the basic if statement, just to recap, just make sure we're all happy with that. So I will just type in basic here. Any of these transactions here in this little table I have that are over $1,000 I want to categorize as important. So we'll say equals, we'll say if, and I'm going to take a look at this and say, is it greater than 1,000? The revenue in this cell I'm testing is greater than 1,000. What am I going to do if it's true? We're going to write the word important into this cell. And if it's false, I'm going to write the word NA into this cell. Hit enter and double click just to toggle down. So that's the basic if. Okay, so let's look at an example of the if statement with an AND condition. And this time I want to test two things. And I only want it to be true if both of those are true. So we're going to test, for example, in this one, we're going to test if the revenue is important, so greater than 1,000 of A2. And then we'll say equal to 9, which is September. And obviously that first one's false because that's a July date. So let's just double click, send that down, check that true on there. That's September. That true on there is September. So that's one condition that we're going to test. Then the second condition I want to test is this greater than 1,000. And we'll send that down. And obviously we get a lot of trues in here. And then now I want to use AND to say this one and this one. So when they're both true is when we'll get the true value. So there's one. So that's a transaction that's greater than $1,000 and it's in September. Here's another true one. And so what we'll do now is we'll build this up into our if statement. And so what we can do is just clear ourselves a bit of space here and we'll say equals if, and we type AND. I'm going to say the first one is the test, is this, is the month of this date equal to 9? So is it a September transaction? And then the second test within the AND was, is this greater than 1,000? And I close the brackets again and we say if these two combined, so if the month is September and it's greater than 1,000, then that's going to be a true. So we'll put that that's an important transaction and it's a recent one. So we're just classifying these maybe for further analysis. Otherwise we're not interested. So we'll just do the NA again and we'll close that one down. Let's just clear these to make sure we're not confusing ourselves. And now let's double click and send that down. And there we go. It's now highlighted those three. So let's take a look at the same example, but with an OR. And this time I want to know is it one of the important transactions or is it through channel A? Because channel A is particularly important to me. So I want both of those to be marked as important. So either a channel A or it's a transaction that's greater than 1,000. So either or. So these ones here, you see at the moment they're being marked as not very important, but we should see them coming through as important now because they're channel A. So let's take a look at that. And in the interest of brevity, we'll just do this in one step together. So we'll do equals if, and then an OR this time. So it's very, very similar. We just put the if and then we put the OR. And the if you remember, has this logical expression, and then the OR ends up giving us a true or false answer. So we'll put some tests inside of the OR. So the first one is this one equal to channel A? And these ones here will be true. And then we also want to know is this greater than 1,000? Same one as before. So we close that off. And then when it's either greater than 1,000 or it's channel A or it's both, then that will give me a true here. And then when that's true, I want to say, yes, that's important or channel A, or whatever you decide to write. And then otherwise it's just going back to our NAs and take a look. So now you see these ones here they're under $1,000, so they're not very important from that perspective, but they're channel A. So that's what we wanted to make sure, was that they were getting picked up on that OR condition. And then finally, let's take a look at what we call a nested if now. And the nested if is a way of embedding multiple checks. So we'll do our first if as normal, and we're just going to, what we want to do is test whether this is greater than or equal to 3,000, I think I said, and then these people are our top customers. So if they're greater than 3,000, it gives me the answer top customer, and that's it. The formula stops, prints out the word top customer, and we move on. However, if they have less than 3,000, so they fail this one, then they don't get the top customer. The formula jumps over into the false section, and what we do in the false is we just ask it another question. We say, okay, if it's not greater than 3,000, is D2 greater than or equal to, let's say this time, let's make it 1,500. And if the answer is yes, okay, so it failed the 3,000 test, but it passes the 1,500 test, then they're still a large customer. And then again, we'll say, okay, if you failed that, I'll ask you another question. Are they greater than 500, let's say? So is D2 greater than or equal to 500? And if that's true, then they're going to be a medium customer. And then finally, so if they then fail this test, so it's one of the really small ones, like say there's $160 here. So they're not greater than 500, they're not medium customer. And we say, well, they fail that test, so they must be less than 500, and therefore we can call them our group of small customers. So we just nest all of these if statements. And then we close that bracket, and you notice it highlights the one that I've just closed. We hit once more, that closes that bracket, and then we hit once more, and that closes that third bracket. So we make sure we match up our brackets so that we have the 3 at the end there. Then I hit enter, and that gives me the one there that's a top customer. So let's now double click, send that down, and you can see it classifies my customers then. And let's say now that I want to sum up all of the revenue that came from the United Kingdom, which is my home. So this is a nice little one for me. Let's hope the answer's a good one. So we're going to use a formula called the sum if, and then we'll say sum if, and that's the formula there. What we do is we give it the range to test first, which may or may not be the range that you want to sum. What we want to do is actually put in the column of data, the range of data that we want to test. And then what it's going to do is sort of essentially evaluate these as true or falses, and then based on that we'll add up some numbers. So we want to test this row, and the test is whether it's United Kingdom. And then we want to know, it wants to know, okay, well, I've got my true falses, I've figured that out, but what do you want to add up? So then we can go and highlight the revenue column and say, okay, well, every time it says United Kingdom here, that's a true, then add that number in. Let's hit enter, and there we go, it's given me 9,000. Let's say we wanted revenue from United Kingdom and channel A. So this time we have two conditions. I want a United Kingdom here and a channel A here before I actually add my number in. So we're going to test for two things with the sum ifs formula. So sum ifs, and this one's a little different because confusingly we actually put the sum range first. So this time the sum range was this one, and we do put this one first in this instance, and then we can put our different ranges to test. So we highlight that one, and we're going to test United Kingdom, and then we're going to highlight this one, and we're going to test for channel A. We'll hit enter, and this time we get 7,000. It's a little bit less because some of the sales from the United Kingdom were coming through other channels. So I'll come back into my formula, I'll remove that United Kingdom, so just hit delete there, and instead reference E24. It's actually just behind my formula there, so that's why I can't click on it, but that's that one there. And then we'll just remove channel A there, and instead click there, and it's going to test that, and it gives us the same answer back. But the nice thing is now, if I want to quickly change this to channel B, then it's very quick to just change that, and my numbers change. So that's a nice problem you could also solve with a data validation. So keep that in mind if you do a lesson on data validation, that we can change these to be data validation inputs, and then this will change for us. So let's also just check out this formula called ifs, because this is kind of like a built-in nested if. Now this is the traditional way of doing ifs, but this nested ifs can be a bit cumbersome, and this ifs formula hopefully simplifies that a little bit. So let's try it out. So this time we're going to type ifs, and the condition one, what we're going to test first is whether this was greater than or equal to 3000, and if it is, then that's a top customer. And then the next thing we're going to test is whether this is greater than or equal to 1500, and that was a large customer. The next thing we're going to test is D2 again, greater than or equal to, I forget now, was it 500? And then that was a medium customer. Then the final thing we'd need to do in this one actually just say that D2 is greater than or equal to 0 and call that the small customer in this case. So they're a top customer. So let's double click and see if these match up. Looks like they're all matching, so that's good. So that's how we would, up to you whether you prefer the traditional nested if or this slightly more modern if statement. So that's pretty much it with all of the ifs. That was a lot of ifs. If you still have questions, then rewatch this video, check out some of the resources below, go and Google it, it's probably been solved.